At long last, it is time for a new video from the project, Wind Waker Unflooded, the 3D modeling fan art project where we are reimagining the kingdom of Hyrule within the world and art style of The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker. Of course, y'all know about this project. Y'all know that the islands of the Great Sea are actually the mountaintops of Hyrule. But we never really got to explore Hyrule within that game, within that beautiful art style. And so this fan art project is all about reimagining it in 3D, in that art style, in that world, showing what Hyrule would look like right before the Great Flood. I'm so inspired by this project. It really excites me. And it's been really fun to keep working on it. And we make a lot of progress in this video. And just every time that I work on this project, it really excites me. And it really excites me how passionate y'all are as well. Every time that I get to read your comments, it really encourages me just to see how much that this means to y'all, because it means a lot to me. Wind Waker is one of those games that everything that it has to express, because that's the thing, right? It's not just a game. It is a story. It is a world, but it's also it is a message, right? Wind Waker has something to express, and I've talked about this before on the channel. But it's just I am continuously impressed by what Wind Waker has to say. And so to me, just having a reason to immerse myself in that piece of art, right? Like, it's not just a fun little map project. It's not just being creative, but it is a choice to immerse myself in this game because it's a game that's nostalgic to me. But there's a reason that I connected with it at a young age, right? It's not just because it's a great game for a kid to play. There's so many games that I have nostalgia for. This was a game that I played as a kid. It was one of the first games that I played. So this is a special project for me. And my relationship to Wind Waker is important to me because of that. Because it was the first game that I really got into from the Zelda series. But I guess the thing is, it's not just something from my childhood, but it's something that I connected with it as a kid because of what it had to express, because I saw the story of a young kid who got to take on a lot of power, who was empowered. You know, just to see a young person empowered in that way was meaningful, right? Because, you know, when you're a young person, everyone's telling you what you could or can't achieve, right? And so it's important to have someone that you look at to be able to see, well, no, despite everything, they accomplished something. They were a hero, right? They weren't stuck on any one island. They got to sail the entire sea, right? And there's so many other things too the Wind Waker has to say that just, it really resonates me about moving forward. And it's just for all of these reasons, just Wind Waker is very special to me, right? For all of those reasons. But excuse me for rambling, but it's just, this is important to me, and I can tell that this is important to y'all as well. Wind Waker is a game that's really important, and I know a lot of y'all just resonate with that feeling of just wishing that you could have explored more of it, and it's been a joy to try to tap into its beautiful art style and to try to add to its world. It is absolutely a joy. And in today's video, we are working on the Gerudo Desert region, kind of around the Great Plateau as it exists in my map, just north of it. That was a really fun just place to work on, and I did a video. The last video I did was on the Great Plateau, and now I'm just north of it, showing the desert and where it begins and connecting it to Needle Rock Isle, I think is the name of it, which is, of course, an important part of the Triforce quest. But there's not a lot to see there. And so a big part of my challenge for modeling was just trying to figure out, just geometrically and geographically, there are certain challenges with just some of the creative decisions I've already made with this part of the map. Of course, given that all the islands are roughly at the same vertical location, so that's a given. So I have already a place where all the islands have to exist in Z space. But then there's this steep drop off from the Great Plateau to not just the land below it, but the desert that is even lower than that. So there's a really tall vertical challenge of how do you get from where the island is, from the top of this mountaintop, and how is that connected to where the steep drop off is. So to be able to travel to the mountaintop on foot, it requires a really steep change in elevation. And that started to motivate, I think, a really interesting shape here next to kind of where the Needle Rock Isle mountain is. Just to the west of it, I've kind of constructed this new kind of really slender mountain, right, that has now created this kind of canyon directly to its east, right? And so just having this kind of like steep wall like mountain where the path ascends, I think it's a really interesting kind of shape, and it's really dramatic, and it's just a way of solving a geometric problem, but it's something that allowed me to kind of face that issue of like, well, how do you have a steep vertical increase, right, just given some of the creative decisions that I've already made, right? Because that's the thing, right? There's times where I go into this project with a plan, and then there's times where I just kind of allow for that emergent creativity, and I enjoy both, right? There's times where I really think about like, well, what do I want this to look like? And I want to be very careful and precious about it. But I think that that's not appropriate for every part of this project. I think there's even something beautiful about, well, let me not be too precious about it. Let me just create and see where it goes. Let me start placing things on the map, and maybe that means it'll take time to kind of figure out, given some of these challenges, given that it all has to fit together. But then from that, I can figure something out, and that's fun, right? It's fun. It's fun to have both, and this is a project that I think really encourages both mindsets, where I can just like start modeling and figure things out, and I can go in with a plan and execute something with a little bit more precision. And I really enjoy both processes as a creator, as a creative, because there's times where I have something really specific to express, and then there's times where I just have to find it, right? And I think I suspect that I have a lot of creative people that watch these videos, and I think y'all know kind of what I'm talking about. I don't know. I know I see that in so many different mediums, and if y'all have been keeping up with the channel for a while, y'all know that I'm also a filmmaker and a musician. If you've heard any music in the background of this video, that was my music, and you can listen to more on Spotify. That's Joe Kendrick, JoeKendrick. Let me plug that real quick. But I also do films, and so I've been thinking just a lot recently about my own writing process as I've been starting to write a couple of new projects, and it's something that like that's still something where I feel young as a writer. I don't know, like I've been making short films for years, but yet I still feel like my knowledge of my own process, like I feel like with every project I do, I learn a lot more about what it takes to complete a project, just because every project is different, right? And that's just something that I've really appreciated even recently. I feel like I've got to know myself better and my own process better, and that's something that just takes experience and time. But yeah, like I've really appreciated that there are projects that I find after I do a rough draft, and then there's projects that I do where I have to plan out everything beforehand and outline the story, and then I can do the first draft. And it just totally depends on, it depends on several things. It depends on the kind of story I'm telling. It depends on why I'm doing the story, and it depends on the production realities as well. Because there's times where it doesn't make sense to go in without a plan. Actually, in order to be productive, you need to go in knowing that you have a formula that works. Sometimes that's just what it takes to do certain projects. But then there's other projects where the point is to be more exploratory. Sometimes I go in because I have something really specific to express, and I know from the beginning, oh yeah, this is definitely where I want to go. My vision's really clear. But then there's times where my vision isn't clear, and you get to explore, right? And I really love that creativity can be exploratory, that part of writing is discovering what I have to say, And sometimes why I do projects is to discover something along the way, to immerse myself within certain material, and then to come out learning something about that material. That's part of why, like I was talking about, it's like that's part of why I do Wind Waker Unflooded, is to immerse myself into Wind Waker and just to hopefully glean something from, all of the things that I think it does so well, right? What is great about its environmental storytelling? What is great about its world building as evident through its geography, right? How do these islands connect? What can I see that there are different ways perhaps that the developers were leaving hints as to what was below these islands, even though it was never modeled. And that's something that is continuously impressive to me, that even despite the reality that these islands are only modeled right just a little bit, I feel like I feel like from the original developers, I can see their vision for what the mountains would look like beyond just the mountain tops, right? As I do Wind Waker Unflooded, and I don't want to claim that I'm discovering the original developer intent. That's not even the goal of this project necessarily. But there are a lot of ways in which I start to model something and I feel some sense of, I don't think I'm modeling it the way they would have, but I do feel like I'm in touch to some degree with I feel like I get closer as I work on the project to figuring out, to just being able to see all that, I feel like I can see their vision, and that Hyrule in the Wind Waker was always more than just the mountaintops as visible from the islands of the Great Sea. There was always more underneath. That's how it feels, right? And who knows how much they designed, how much they had in mind, how much they really decided. Who's to say? And I know a big part of my project is just filling in the gaps and being creative. And it's really been a joy to make those creative decisions. This is ultimately my project. And it's up to me to kind of make my own decisions about, given that, there's only so much above the surface that I can make inferences from. This project is not just about making inferences, it's about being creative and making new decisions. And that's something I have to accept as well. As much as I can try to figure out what's the original developer intent, how do things maybe line up with parts of Hyrule that we see in other games and landmarks that we see from other games, and how can I fit those in? But then beyond that, I then also have to make my own decisions about how Hyrule would exist within the world of the Wind Waker. And long-time viewers have heard me say a couple of these things before, but I know that these videos have been getting a lot of new viewers, and I'm really thankful that the algorithm's been working with me. And it's really, like I said, it's so cool to see how many of y'all care about this project, and it's a delight to be able to share it with you. So comment down below what you want to see next. I take your feedback. I try to read most of the comments that I can, and I would love to know what y'all would want to see from Wind Waker Unflooded. So let me know what y'all have in mind. Let me know your ideas, and yeah, without further ado, I'll let you go.
Now, if you're looking for other ways to support me, as always, you can support me as a creator by becoming a member on Patreon. There you'll get access to all kinds of exclusive behind-the-scenes content like in-progress outlines, scripts, storyboards, rough cuts, and even soundtracks for my newest films. By becoming a member, you'll also be thanked in the credits for any film I finish during your membership. You can also support me by streaming my music. I compose all of the scores for my own short films, and you can listen to those soundtracks on Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you listen to music. Just look up Joe Kendrick. That's JoeKendrick. Y'all have a wonderful day, and without further ado, I'll let you go.